Hello and welcome to this series of lectures on theories which are post-structuralist. So after post-structuralism, there have been a flourish of theoretical advances in humanities. We're picking up a few theories. We are picking up a few ideas because we can't call them theories proper. Most of them are ideas, like the one that we are going to discuss right away, the idea of post-truth. When we say post-truth, the first thing that we have to understand is like it is usually used as an adjective. We talk about post-truth media, we talk of post-truth literature, we talk of post-truth ethics. There is a special way in which we can use post-truth as a noun, as when we talk of an environment that prevails in the media world today, in the general philosophical environment that we have, then probably post-truth is a noun. But generally, post-truth is used as an adjective. So we are going to look at this adjective. We are going to look at this idea of transcending truth, moving beyond truths, post-truth. What exactly is post-truth? Even though this is a post-structural idea, even though this is a relatively very recent idea, debates about truth have been active ever since the inception of classical Western philosophy. You would find that earliest philosophers of Greece, earliest Chinese philosophers, Arabian philosophers, Indian philosophers, they have all been intrigued by the idea of truth. In an age where print or written language was still evolving, the masters such as Socrates, Confucius, Sri Buddha, these masters were very skeptical about written truths. They held that truths can only be spoken, truth cannot be written. Written language, printed material, these things must be held in suspicion. Very famously, Socrates argued vehemently against written language and books for that matter. Do not write down, Socrates said. If you are interested in the pursuit of truth, you should be indulging in debates. Truth can be understood, truth can be chased, truth can be explored only via spoken method. The spoken word was seen as sacred, and the path to truth and the ultimate truth is only spoken. So you would find Sri Buddha, for instance, forbidding his disciples to write down things that he said. Confucius, against writing down things that he says. Jesus Christ, not writing down things but speaking. The spoken word was seen as, the spoken word was understood as truth in the axial age of philosophy. That is from 5th century BC onwards. You would have this debate that tries to posit spoken language, spoken truth as the ultimate truth and written truth as something inferior. The reason why Socrates goes against, I'll use Socrates because the current idea of post-truth is basically Western, and probably we should use the arguments that Socrates threw to this field to understand how truth was conceived in ancient Greece, and later when print technology evolved and became very common, how the idea of truth arrived at a different crossroads. In a very short span of time, in a matter of 15 minutes, let us try to see how this evolution happened. What was the contention? What was the problem that Socrates identified with print material. Socrates famously said that the written idea is a dead idea. You cannot have a debate with it. And a written idea is transferable. What if you go into the core of that argument, if you go into the core idea that Socrates is fighting with, Socrates is having a debate with, it is this. He is trying to say that you cannot argue with something that is written down and passed off as truth. It is not living. It doesn't have an authority. Let us say a book, a book comes to you and then you read the book. It goes into your consciousness. You take it as truth. It becomes part of your knowledge. And Socrates was appalled that such a generation could evolve. He was appalled that a generation would come where books would be seen as repositories of truth. Because books are places where debates cannot happen. It is a non-human place. So you see, the idea is truth is a human thing. Truth is a living thing. And when you put that into textbooks, when you put that in a printed page, it is a dead thing. It is a body of knowledge that cannot be authoritative. Because who says this? We don't know. And do you have a debate with the person who says this? No. The author is concealed. The author is invisible. The author is beyond the written material. Unlike the spoken word, where every single word that is spoken is accountable. It's accountable to the person who speaks it. You can when I speak something, you can hold me accountable for what I have spoken. But it does not work like that. It does not work like that in a book. So Socrates saw that society will be flooded with books. Society will be flooded with an archive, an archival environment where the printed, non-interactive, unauthorized truth will be in circulation. The irony is that we know of this argument from Socrates because Plato cared to write it down. If it was only spoken, if it was only part of an oral culture, oral philosophy, we would never have had access to this idea that he put forth. The same with Jesus Christ. If there was no written scripture, Christianity would be an impossibility. The same with Sri Buddha, the same with Confucius, all those masters who opposed writing down now lives majorly thanks to the disobedience of their disciples. They wrote things down, they made books, and these books became foundations of international communities, international religions, international versions of truths. Print became the repository of truth. Printed word and books became repositories of knowledge. We are discussing about a post-truth environment holding this environment of print version of truth as our bedrock, as our register, as our basic register. Which means you should not take post-truth as a phenomena that is like a lie. Post-truth is not an idea that holds in suspicion the ability of human beings to speak truth. No. It is not about the truths in our everyday life. It's about the ability or the command that print modernity had, print literature had in archiving truths. Books are seen as repositories of truth, and that is the cultural edifice that is called into question in a post-truth environment. Post-truth environment prevails because human societies, human civilization has moved on from print modernity to digital modernity. In the digital modernity, in this current cyber environment in which we are living, in the online world, the print archives are no more seen as reservoirs of truth, repositories of truth, archives of truth. Now, if somebody needs information, knowledge, the first gesture that they make is not towards a library of printed books, but towards the online repositories of knowledge. And history repeats, like how Socrates imagined print books as a problematic place to search truths in. The generations of human civilizations, a whole history of global human civilization that fed on books, that developed on printed archives, that evolved through the truths that were stored in printed archives. Those generations and that body of civilization is appalled that there could be a new generation which does not look at printed material as reservoirs of truth. They could ignore books altogether. The next generation, the next stage of evolution, which basically happens, which basically uses the digital platform for its search for truth, for its dispensing of truth, for its use of truth. They don't look at printed archives, print books, or print modernity as a veritable place to go back in search of truth. And we are appalled that there is so much of fake news, there is so much of fake information, there are information, there are archives which are not authorized. You search for data and then you get like a million results. So you enter a search term and the software returns thousands, millions of search results. How do you know which of them is true? It doesn't come like a book with an author. Most of the time you don't even know who wrote what. So the information that you get is, it could be specious, it could be false, it could be fake, it could be an outright lie or misinterpretation. So how do you know? So this is the problem. This is the problem that the generation that fed on print modernity has with the way truth is understood by the online generation, the cyber generation, the digital generation. Post-truth is that environment where truths as we understood, truths as the previous generation understood, truth as understood, when you understand truth as a function of newspapers, journals, books, dictionaries, encyclopedias. If you look at these sites, these printed sites as repositories of truth, then you will naturally have a skepticism towards a generation that understands truth as a function of online searches, AI interventions. Because we are the generation that fed on printed material. We think that the evolution brings an explosion of information which is unauthorized. In a very weird way, this coincides with, this overlaps with, this gives a parallel to the skepticism and panic that Socrates had in 5th century BC. When print, when print became popular and printed material, books started soloing up the truths of oral culture. So this is like history repeating itself. This is the history of an attitude repeating itself. We are moving into a world where Truth is volatile. We're moving into a media environment where the print is imitating the way truth is created in online platforms. Social media, online media, digital archives, AI, these have become repositories of knowledges. These have become repositories of truths. And necessarily there are attitudinal changes. When we talk about fake news, for instance, the assumption is like we have moved from an era of true news or like real news to fake news. What we do not understand is like the print media was also led by ideologies. There is a certain ideology that leads a certain print institution. Like a newspaper will have its own politics, a journal will have its own politics, and what is printed as truth in those registers will be influenced by, will be shaded by, will be colored by the ideological leanings of that particular firm. In a very broad sense, that is also fake news. But then we wouldn't recognize that as fake news because we are accustomed to understanding what is printed as real and true. Whereas we are not accustomed to 1,000 versions of truths simultaneously produced in online media. Versions of truth, innumerable versions of truth, multiple versions of truth that comes up in online media. The question is like, would you have like three major news agencies printing three major newspapers and three major versions of truth? Or will you have 1,000 different online media coming up with 1,000 different versions of truth? Is it positive? Is it positive that we allow everybody, practically everybody, to have their versions of truth? And is it okay to allow them to flout their ideas of truth in the public realm? Isn't that a more healthy way of debating the truth than allowing a certain corporate, allowing a few corporates, allowing a few agencies to dictate to the general public the nature of truth? Well, this is the positive way in which this is one positive way in which post-truth environment can be envisioned. There exists now a very active environment of skepticism when it comes to discussing post-truth media. But I think that attitude has to be revised. It is my opinion. I mean, it doesn't have to be generally taken as a rule or a law or something. It doesn't have to be. I mean, it is possible for us to think of online media as sites where truth can be willfully mediated. You can think of online media as a place where truth doesn't even exist. You can think of the enormous multiplicity of versions that you have online. You can think of that as a problem, a major problem. Or you can think of this as the necessary step in evolution, another way in which truth has to be understood, another register in which truths are articulated. So, post-truth has only begun its journey as a theory, as an environment, as an idea. It has only begun its journey. We are yet to see how this develops.